some friendly faces here, some that I haven't even seen before. So what we're going to do tonight is, I don't know whether you folks have filled out a questionnaire yet, but so far we've received 57 questionnaires in handwritten form, and there's another batch at City Hall that are waiting for us to tabulate. So the 57 handwritten ones is a 1.5% return for the population here, which is adequate for statistical purposes, but now we have more. I want to applaud the citizens of Oak Ridge for staying involved and getting active on this and giving their input. So what I want to do is go over where we're at right now. We've had a meeting with City Council. We've had a town hall meeting. We've been reviewing the plans and documents that the city has that they've developed over the years. I'm not going to say that this is the end of the story, but right now this is the story, is that everybody wants more jobs. People are concerned about their local government, some concerned about efficiency. It seems like some of the comments are about historical conditions as opposed to current conditions. So there's some looking backwards in these questionnaires and criticizing things that have happened in the past, which are less important to the strategic plan going forward, other than the lessons that we have to learn from that past experience. And my interaction with City Hall staff and with the mayor and with the City Council is that I think everybody's learned those lessons pretty well. And but there are some issues where you want more out of your City Hall, particularly relative to public safety. That was one of the areas. Roads, public works. There's quite a few things that the citizens are interested in receiving from local government. One of those things is street paving. That was a consistent theme. Street paving and crosswalks. And having come into town about 6 o'clock tonight and watching this woman with 2 kids on a stroller and one under her arm try to get across Highway 58, I can appreciate the crosswalk issue. Of course, we all know one of the things that is a challenge for any municipal government is that we've got combined jurisdictions. Highway 58 is an ODOT, is a state highway, and so we can't do things without cooperating with the other jurisdictions that have authority over those. So there was quite a bit of talk about medical and health care. And what I'm wanting to do tonight with you folks is hear from you what you think the city should do in these respective areas. Because there's some things the cities can do, some things they can't do. They certainly can support and advocate and be leaders in terms of rattling the cage, as we say, in terms of getting people attention and trying to get some services here to Oak Ridge. Public safety, there was quite a bit of discussion about law enforcement and fire and ambulance. Of course, these tie together too, because there was some emergency medical services and then urgent care and some other things that folks were looking for. Recreation was an overall theme in the community to date as a source for your economic future. That this is, we used to have a natural resource-based industry here. We used to have mills and we used to produce lumber. And I'm not saying, I don't believe in my heart of hearts that we're done with that, but we're certainly at an interlude, aren't we? Because I mean, until federal government gets done fighting with each other and everything, and we get a sustainable yield of reliable material coming to our mills, it's hard to vest our efforts into that industry when we don't know where our resources are coming from. Beautification was a huge thing. You guys, from the community standpoint, beautification seems to be, if there was one thing I would pick out that everybody had a comment on, it was beautification. And the irony here is that some people were telling us that they want less government interference, rules and regulations, and then on the flip side, page 3, they want the government to come in and condemn buildings and start burning them. and taking them down. So, you know, we gotta find a balance here. And, you know, I've been in a situation, we've done a lot of work all over the Northwest, and I've done some things on solid waste ordinances in different places where one person's solid waste, one person's gold mine is everybody else's solid waste. So most of the time, people are eager to have people take care of the other people's yards and houses, but not so interested in having people tell them what to do. So we have to strike a balance that keep the community together and you know, working together, supporting each other, because it's a cohesiveness of a community that makes a difference. When people come together, things happen in the community. And that was a reoccurring theme too. That was something I've heard from pretty much everybody, that we need to pull together, that we've been through some tough times, we've had some rough experiences, but it's a great community, it's a good place for your kids to grow up. Most of you are still here because you were here, either worked here in your career or you retired here or you know, you chose to be here. That's the important thing. And so we need to take advantage of the location, and we need to be proud of our community. So is there anything on here? I want people just to jump in and share their ideas with me and the city, because this is going to go back to the city council from this point, and we're going to ask the city council to prioritize for the next 5 years where they're going to put their major efforts. And we can't do it all. I mean, as much as we'd like to do it all, we don't have the resources, we don't have the manpower, and we only have a limited amount of time. And it's like the boy that cried wolf, you know, you got to choose when you're going to cry wolf and what help you're going to get. So you're going to have to be selective about what your priorities are. City council's charged with selecting those priorities, but they want to hear from you. So if it's okay with you, I'd just like to jump in and go through these things, but I'd like to hear if anybody sees a problem with what these areas are. Yes, sir.
Yes, I would personally like to see some type of recreation for our young adults and children.
Consistent theme. Everybody was concerned about the kids, keeping the kids here. So, yeah, so I'm going to put youth into, and you guys, these notes are all going to be sent back to the city. City's going to have all the notes from all these sessions, so you don't have to worry about reading my scribbling, okay? Yes, ma'am.
I didn't hear you say anything about online submission of the surveys. Is there an additional number beyond the 57?
The 57 were the handwritten, and Susan, we don't know how many we have on the online yet, right? Do you know?
That was something that
So it's in my office then.
was in your office.
Okay.
We have a lot more handwritten ones that came in.
Yeah. We've got more handwritten ones at City Hall? Okay, so we got more handwritten.
I've been gone for about a week, so I'm gonna start scanning and sending them.
So that, I've got a report that'll come back to City Council next week at the City Council meeting. I'm going to ask the City Council to review that report, accept that report, and post it on the website so you'll all be able to see what your neighbors anonymously have responded. I'm sure some of you will recognize your neighbors' comments, because I'm sure there's some themes here that you've heard before in these public meetings. So there'll be substantially more surveys, and there's still an opportunity to do that, by the way. So we haven't closed that at all. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I'm not sure whether you can answer this question. The city will have to answer it. But could you tell me what is the respective area of responsibility for the city of Oak Ridge and ODOT regarding Highway 58?
Well, that's ODOT, it's a...
What was the question?
It's, what's the relationship between...
No, what is the respective area of responsibility?
The respective area of responsibility between ODOT and the city on Highway 58. So
Regarding Highway 58.
Okay, so I can just tell you, and I'm going to ask the city manager and any other council members who've had involvement to supplement what I'm going to answer to you. So, okay, so in most small cities, when state highway comes through there, are you trying to follow me? I'll quit moving around. I'll quit moving as far anyhow. So when ODOT has jurisdiction over the highway, any egress or access has to be approved by ODOT. Any improvements on the highway have to be accepted by ODOT. And that's mostly demonstrated if, I'm sure the city has been approached about, maybe not on 58, but on a lot of cities, ODOT is trying to get the local jurisdiction to take jurisdiction over those highways. And the reason they're trying to do that is they want to shift the maintenance and upkeep on those highways to the local jurisdiction. And so the city really doesn't have any jurisdiction on the highway itself except for law enforcement, enforcing the state laws. Louis, do you want to jump in on this?
No, I think you're right on point. As far as the highway itself, ODOT has jurisdiction. However, the key thing that Stan said earlier is trying to cooperate with ODOT to try to get things done. And that is something that the city is doing right now. trying to get something
I agree with you,
done.
Louis. All I'm asking is, do you or any of the city councillors know, because I do, because I've been working with ODOT, do you know where ODOT finishes
Oh, the right of way.
and the paving? What jurisdiction has the city of Oak Ridge got on that highway, including sidewalks? Do you know?
If the sidewalks are in the ODOT right of way, they're still under ODOT jurisdiction.
And I believe so.
You believe what?
If they're in the right of way, and normally on that highway, it's in between the two telephone poles, the poles on each side. Anything north or south of the poles is the city's jurisdiction. Anything in between those telephone poles normally is ODOT's right of way.
So share with us your knowledge.
No, I'm not going to share because I've worked hard on this. City council can find it out for themselves. And when they do, they're going to be in for a real big shock. Because I've actually got it on writing from ODOT as to who is
That's not very
responsible.
community-minded.
No, it isn't.
No, it's not community-minded. Not-
Okay.
Because I don't belong to the city council. I mean, the city
Neither do
council
we.
should know, but we have councillors. Well, the mayor here, somebody should know. I mean, if I want to have my paving done tomorrow, do I go to the city council? Is it their responsibility, or do I go to ODOT? And to save you all non-sleeping tonight, city council has no jurisdiction on that highway. Those pavements and the sidewalks responsibly are, because if you look at those telegraph poles, they are the responsibility of ODOT. And that's where we had a little situation where the entrances to buildings and to people's premises got totally mucked up,
Right.
as by all of this.
Transportation growth management.
So,
plans, yeah.
and because I had a situation of having to put hanging baskets up,
Yeah.
I had to get permission off ODOT because at first Oak Ridge City thought that the responsibility for the sidewalks was the citizens that lived outside the house. And I had a situation and I went to Gordon Zimmerman and he said, I will write a letter and tell those people they've got to repair the sidewalk. But in the process of me getting the hanging baskets, ODOT didn't know. So they went to Salem. It took them 3 weeks to find out that, wow, we own it. So they're responsible.
Yeah.
That's a good thing in a way because that means if you want pretty sidewalks, City of Oak Ridge ain't going to pay for it.
Yeah, well, one of the things about this, though, is that when ODOT comes through and makes an improvement on the highway, they do the design work. So one of the things that local communities are struggling with is the loss of on-street parking. Not so much on 58 wouldn't be a big issue, but where you've got a highway coming through your town that's really a secondary highway at this point, but still an ODOT highway. Cascade Locks, Rufus, the Dowells, all have state highway jurisdictions coming through their city. So if they want to make improvements to the sidewalks or access or egress, they have to have approval from ODOT to do that. And if you look at the designs that ODOT's like every other entity, is that they go for the latest design, and it's bump outs and trees and reducing some of the sidewalks, certainly ADA accessible sidewalks, but we, as the citizens of the community, can participate in the process, but we really can't take this as our Oak Ridge design and we want it like that. We can say that, and we can fight for it, but ODOT's going to fight for their design too.
14 months ago, we had a meeting with the highway businesses of 58, with ODOT and with managers. And they told us that their new rule is now that they cannot and will not jeopardise businesses anywhere or livelihood of businesses by moving or putting things what they want to do. That was then when your report came out. Not now. They've changed the rules, they've changed their ideas, and they are more prone to A, safety, and B, business and finance. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, I've done siting for a lot of businesses over in small cities that we had to work with ODOT to get our access and egress. And you can look at a plot map and you can see 5 or 6 ODOT accesses identified on the plot, and you still have to beg ODOT for a single access. And they want loops and those kinds of things. So that doesn't mean that we as a community here at Oak Ridge can't lobby, can't make our case for improvements to Highway 58. One of those things I think is that has come up with the citizens is crosswalks. And certainly if safety is an issue, if we had some light controlled sidewalks or something like that, that would improve safety substantially. It would also help business because it's a traffic dampering activity. I live in Bend, not by choice, but by love, because my wife said that's where we have to live. You know, the roundabouts do the same thing. They're a traffic dampering device to slow traffic down, but also to keep it moving. So one of the things that on the streets and the pavings, the city streets, maintenance and repair certainly falls under the city's jurisdiction. Highway 58 is the biggest issue for the citizenry here from what I've been able to read because of the beautification issue. There's lots of references to concerns about beautification. And then there's also the idea of having safe pedestrian access across Highway 58. So that is one of the things that we've heard from the citizens. That's one of the things I'd like to report back to City Council, that the citizens would get behind collectively putting pressure on ODOT to make some improvements. If it's going to be safety improvements, it could be the sidewalks, it could be the crosswalks. So, am I hearing any? Yes, ma'am.
Our infrastructure hasn't been addressed here at all, under the streets.
Yeah, water and sewer, I've got, I mean, if you look at this, take medical, and we put medical up here, these things here are pretty much all part of the city council. We heard a lot about water and sewer. I've heard water, I'm not going to pick on you, but somebody's brought up water a couple times. You know?
The other thing I was thinking is about beautification. I think there should be some incentive for people that do improve. You know, you improve and make something really different and really lovely, and the taxes go up. And the derelicts, the taxes, you know, are much lower.
You know who does the assessment on the property, though. So
Yes, I know.
the county is the one that does the assessment. Yeah.
Maybe we could make some sort of a concerted effort if enough people go down there and complain. But, you know, you lose incentive to do anything, really, because it's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
It's a terrible expense for businesses, especially. And yet, you know, a lot of us go out of our way to do that. And
So tell me what you'd like to take it a little bit step further. Tell me what the
I don't know. There's got to be a better incentive than just having to pay more taxes, a higher tax.
Yeah, that's not really an incentive, is it?
No, I mean, it isn't. And yet, you know, I have sacrificed to do that, and so many others in this town have too. I mean, particularly at the west end of town. The west end of town looks a lot different now than it did 23 years ago.
Well, let me be devil's advocate, because I own commercial property in 3 different towns, and so I'm a lot like you guys. I'm a small business person as well, so I have to maintain my, you talked about beautification, some kind of acknowledgement. Are you thinking of a community award or
Oh,
something?
no, I mean, we all notice.
Okay,
I mean, it's obvious. No, I think the tax rates are skewed. You know, if you do a major improvement or a real great improvement, you find that you'll be paying more in taxes. They reassess.
yeah.
And if you have some old dump that's sitting there, and I have one of each, yeah, I don't have to worry about the taxes on that one.
But that's the county again.
Again, you're right.
I think having pride in your business and just having pride in your community and making it a beautiful place because you love it is a good investment.
You're
and a
right
good-
about that, Katrina. I guess we can't fight everybody.
Well, we can certainly make our case, yes, sir.
Well, I think as far as beautification and on the highway itself, is that what we can control though is the structures and how they look.
Right.
And that we can create an incentive program of some sort, which I think is going to require us as a community to step up and do some volunteerism. Because some of these people cannot afford to beautify their properties. Whereas if we stepped in with volunteers and donations of product and et cetera, that we could go in and paint somebody's house in a weekend with enough people. And I can get plenty of paint donated through Home Depot or Jerry's or other paint stores, that we could do things like that and encourage people through our process of, first of all, saying, hey, we would be willing to help you do this or to make dump runs or whatever. But we also have an ordinance program that is starting to gain some teeth, which has always been complaint-driven in the past, but now we have somebody that's actually participating and doing that. And I'm hearing complaints about that because now he's showing up on somebody's property saying, you can't do that anymore. And people don't like it.
No.
So like you were saying earlier, you know, that whole dynamic. So it's going to take us to clean up the structures, the buildings along 58, and ODOT encourage them to do what they're going to do with it.
Well, go ahead, Matt.
The only thing is it takes the owner too to maintain it. If
Yeah.
they're able, because I know that that's been done before. We've, you know, come together, we've made some great positive changes, and then the maintenance just wasn't done. So it's like,
But we never had we never had the ordinance enforcement to back up that, which
Right.
we do now.
Yeah, but that, again, that's gonna, I mean, we have to have basically a community consensus that those teeth need to be there and that they need to be used, you know, on certain cases. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I said this before the city council meeting. I'm not going to say that to Jerry. But I wanted to say is they're in charge, the city's in charge of the structural of 158. I don't agree with that.
Well, what do you, clarify for me what you mean by the structure.
Structural, like, it's the frontier look. That's-
Oh, the architectural look on the,
I think the last time I paid my taxes, I think my name was on the tax property, not the city's. But what bothers me is, I'm grandfathered in because I have a business at the liquor store. But if I want to do any kind of improvements, I fall in under the new category. If I have to do a new roof or whatever. And I don't think that's right. I mean, you talk to businesses, any of the businesses on Highway 58, and they will tell you if they have to put a ton of money, such as a new roof, $30,000 for a new roof or whatever.
sure.
You know, who's going to take a loan out for that? You know?
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
Having been a planning commissioner and now a counselor, is that like with the St. Vincent Hall, and you used to go on the roller rink.
I find it.
Okay. There was a lot of changes that were required to happen there, but just would throw the effort out the window. So we had to agree on some variances, like the rolled roof. You know, that was not part of the frontier picture. But to change the roof or change the size of the windows was going to throw the project out the window. It just redone. It would have to be torn down and rebuilt. So we're trying to create some guidelines here that we don't have all this whatever going on. We're trying to create some focus that's generic, that's overall for the community. So if you have a situation where you need to go to the planning commission and go, okay, well, this is what I want to do, and let them work with you on it. And that's to try and create a common thing for town. When you go through some place like Sisters, and you see their economy, and you see what they're doing, they've created a common thing.
That's just the problem, we ain't sisters.
Well, I understand that, but we're trying to create some commonality as much as we can. Understanding that people's pocketbooks aren't sisters.
But why do we have to do that? Why can't we just clean up Oak Ridge? Why do we have to have like the frontier look? Or why do we have to have a thing?
But St. Vinny's is not frontier.
Oh, no, but that's the guidelines, right?
But that's what I'm saying. We took that as a parameter and then helped them design the building based on that. I think it looks pretty nice.
Are you,
But I'm just saying that, what you do, a house, right now, for instance, a pizza parlor, he told me on the phone that if he has to put a new roof on or go to an expense like that, he said, I'm just gonna shut my doors. You're gonna see.
But I don't think he's gone to the planning commission with a plan and say, this is what I would like to do, or this is what I'm thinking to do, and get their input on it. That's why we have a planning commission. That's why we have this enforced, so that we don't have 50,000 different buildings all looking different. We try to create some sort of general theme through town. Understanding that pocketbooks are part of that.
You know what, when you go into a neighborhood of all these new homes, doesn't that not look boring? You go, it's like they're all built the same, the garages are all the same. Oh, sometimes they're reversed, but they all look the same. You know what, we're different. Why?
I understand that, but I'm saying still, that's why we have some of this in place, like the planning commission, to try to create some commonality.
so what your objection is basically is the architectural review criteria, the design criteria in the land use code. You don't want to see that.
I don't like to see where the city can tell us what color we need to paint in the graph. And I don't like, I think that they're telling us what we can paint with our business. We are business owners. We know what's going to sell and make a difference with our business. We don't go to their house and tell them how they have to paint their house, do their roof, or whatever. And I feel we're 158, and we do the best that we can. And I feel that no one has a right to tell us, if it wasn't for the business of 158, people wouldn't stop.
Yeah.
And I just feel that it's not right for them, the city, whatever group it is, to tell us when they themselves, they wouldn't like it if somebody went to their house and said, here's how to paint your house pink.
Yeah. Well, I guess that one of the things I want to come back, I want to give you a chance to respond here, but, and you as well. You know, that's in the land use code, in the zoning ordinance. Did you participate when that code was?
You know what, you ask any business on Highway 58, and no one knew about it. I did not know about it, I own 2 businesses.
Okay, okay.
You talk to the numerous businesses, nobody knew about it.
Okay. There's 236 or 238, I can't remember, cities in Oregon. And I would say probably 200 of them have an architectural design standard. Little cities like, you know, little cities like Rufus and Grass Valley have those ordinances. So you guys are not alone. I'm not saying that's justification. Let me let this gentleman, beg pardon?
Is their business any better? Are their towns booming because of it? Has it made a difference?
Is there, let's pick a town, a rural town that's booming. Somebody help me out here. So, you know, McMinnville, that's not really rural anymore, is it?
It didn't make a difference. It did not make a
Well,
difference.
these are long-term, I mean, these are like turning a big ship, you know, this is a long-term thing. Let's let this gentleman and this gentleman here, go ahead.
I would just like to say, we can talk ourselves to death about all these, we can talk ourselves in circles about all these improvements. But the bottom line, Robin said it, you just said it about rural communities. If you don't bring jobs in, you don't have the money to pay for these improvements, whether you're a private business, whether you're a school district, whether you're a city. Jerry and I just were at an ODOT meeting last night, and this same discussion came up. Federal dollars are shrinking. State dollars are scarce. We have to advocate for everything. We have to advocate for better timber management.